You're watching Kruger Nation Horror Movie Reviews. I'm Johnny, and today I'm going to talk about some horror movies of the last decade. Now, I've seen on Bloody Disgusting and on several message boards and things like that, and on YouTube, there have been a lot of people talking about their top 20 horror movies of the last decade. My list runs about 22 movies long, I think. I don't have them in any order except for the top 5. So my list starts with 2001 Maniacs from 2005, starring Robert Englund and Lin Shaye. This is a remake of the Herschel Gordon Lewis 2000 Maniacs from back in the day. And this is a very good remake. It's very campy, but I think that's what it was always meant to be, so great movie. Next on my list is Black Sheep from 2007. This is an Australian horror movie about genetically mutated sheep that kill people. Next one on my list is Black Water from 2007. This is another Australian movie. This movie is, I love a really good crocodile. Any kind of movie where an animal's eating people, I love it if they can do it right. This movie used no CG. This movie was fucking awesome. They actually built the suspense and the terror to a great level that you were actually able to, jump out of your seat when you're watching. Next on my list is Undead from 2003. This is another movie where it was a really good concept. It had aliens, it had zombies, and it was also another Australian movie. So, very good movie. In fact, the director and writer of this, I think it's the Spierig brothers, they're doing the movie Daybreakers with Willem Dafoe and Sam Neill, the vampire movie. So, if this movie is any indication of what Daybreakers is going to be like, it's going to be fucking badass. And this movie had a lot of CGI in it, and it was awesome because they knew how to blend it in to the point that you didn't realize it was CGI, but you knew, if you have common fucking sense, you know they're using CGI. The next two films on my list are werewolf movies. And in 2001 we got Neil Marshall's Dog Soldiers, and in 2003 we got it was like an after-school special / werewolf movie, Ginger Snaps, which was awesome. Hot chicks turning into werewolves. In 2009. In 2009, slasher fans were given laid to rest. It followed the simple concept of chase and stalk and slash. There was really a thin story there, so if you go into it and you're like, well, I want something that's going to amuse me and my mind, you're not going to get it. In 2008, Jack Brooks' Monster Slayer was released, starring Trevor Matthews and Robert Englund. And this was it was a horror / comedy, but it was an awesome movie, and I hear they're doing a follow-up to it, which it's gotta be badass. Next on my list is the 2007 film Hatchet, starring Kane Hodder. This is also an excellent slasher film. Kids get lost on a boat trip in the bayou, get stalked by a serial killer who's deformed. That's pretty much it. In 2003 we got House of a Thousand Corpses by Rob Zombie. Now, I hear a lot of people bashing on this because, they say, that it's not all the hype that it was built up to be. Well, it was delayed or released for, like 5 years? So, there was a lot of hype behind it. But still, it was a really good movie. And it took me about 3 watches to completely understand what he was going for. Because the first time I watched it, it was like a music video. And the second time I watched it, I was like, well, this is actually well put together. And the third time, I was like, this is a badass fucking movie. Martyrs, the French film from 2008, was also very brutal, very awesome horror film, and I really love the ending with that film. It's a slow burn to the end, but it's so great. Next on my list is 2004's Dawn of the Dead remake by Zack Snyder. It was written by James Gunn, who wrote Slither and directed Slither, and he also wrote Scooby-Doo 1 and 2. The next film on my list is 2003's Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. And it was directed by Marcus Nispel. He does a really good job. I really like the way his movies look. They all have that same grainy texture, and they have the lights coming down through the trees and the things like that. The real cool shots. I really like that. He did Pathfinder, and he also did Friday the 13th remake, but those aren't on my list. Next up, Saw 1 from 2004. Now, I'll admit that I like the first few Saw films, but this is the only one that I feel should make this list because after a while, it's just been crammed down our throats. Every Halloween. And even though Hollywood sucks, this is the shittiest news I've received in a while. The next movie on my list is Repo the Genetic Opera. And the news is that it's already being remade by Hollywood. So you can expect a movie called Repo Men in the theaters next year. But back on the subject of Repo the Genetic Opera, this is an awesome movie, man. It's a horror sci-fi musical. I say sci-fi because it was very odd in parts, you know, had that sci-fi feel, but it was more horror. And if you could stand a musical start to finish, this movie is excellent. And it's not, you know, your mom's musical. This isn't, you know, The Sound of Music. There's people from Rob Zombie, there are people from OTEP playing. You know, the music's done by professionals and awesome musicians. And now for the top 5 on my list. Coming in at number 5, Freddy vs. Jason from 2003. This was directed by Ronnie Yu, starring Robert Englund, Ken Kirzinger, and a whole bunch of teenagers. I really like this movie, and I've heard a lot of people talk shit on it, but come on, man, it's called Freddy vs. Jason, so, you know, it is what it is. You're not going to go into this movie thinking that you're going to be seeing, like, Citizen Kane material. Number 4 on my list is 2008's Let the Right One In. This is a Swedish vampire film, and it is shot beautifully. This movie, from start to finish, is just awesome to look at. But the story's really cool, too, because, you know, it's not your traditional vampire movie, but at the same time, it holds the same vampire traditions. You know, there are fangs and feasting on blood, and there are violent moments. This is a slow movie, though, so you're not going to go into this thinking you're seeing The Lost Boys or 30 Days of Night or something like that. This movie, it's just a very well-told story. And guess what? It's being remade. There are no sparkly vampires in this movie. I promise you that. And hey, Stephanie Meyer, that's for you. Number 3 on my list is the French film Inside from 2008. Since I talked about this movie on a previous video, I won't go into it too much, but I will say this. This is one of the most brutal movies I've ever seen, and it's awesome. I'm going to get a lot of shit for this, but number 2 on my list is 2007's Hostel 2. Now, I love Hostel 1, but Hostel 2 to me, it was like Eli Roth perfected all of his camera shots, he perfected his story, everything he wanted to do, and you know, this movie didn't hold back on the gore. I think they amped it up a lot from the first film. It didn't do very well at the box office, but that doesn't matter to me because I can just throw on Hostel 2 almost any time and just enjoy it for what it was made for, the horror fans. And now I've come to the number 1 movie of the last decade on my horror film list. And it is The Devil's Rejects from 2005. There are a lot of Rob Zombie haters out there, especially after he did Halloween and Halloween 2. But you got to go back and look at films like this and think that this man does know what he's doing. And even though you may not like what he did with Halloween 1 or 2, he does know how to write and direct a film. In fact, he did it so well that this movie not only makes it to the number 1 on my list, but it had like such an impact on me. You know, I left the theater the first day it opened after seeing it and thinking, man, that was a really well-made movie. Now, say what you will about his choices and things he's directed after that, but don't hold it against him, because the man obviously knows what he's doing. And that pretty much wraps it up for my top 22 horror films of the last decade. Now, the skeleton I usually have in my videos, who won't be featured in this video, has kind of gotten worried over the last few weeks because he has no name. So, starting today, December 19th, I'm going to run a contest until December 31st. And the contest is, think of a cool name for the skeleton, put it in the comment section below, and if I choose your entry, you'll win all 8 of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, 1 through Freddy vs. Jason. And on January 1st, 2010, I will draw the name, and I will let you know on the next video who's the winner. And I will send you all 8 of those movies. So until next time, Kruger Nation, thanks for watching.